Hello, Noses. Thank you so much for joining today's session. I'm Emmanuelle Meuglin. I'm the founder and perfumer here at Experimental Perfume Club, and I would like to walk you through today some of the beautiful flowers that we use in perfumery. Some of you may know, having joined quite a few of our videos already, we don't only talk about natural extract here, we also talk about molecules. So I will touch on both. The floral category is the biggest category of perfumery, so it would take hours and hours and days to talk about everything that we can find in the floral category. So what I will focus on is that I will focus on today the main subfamily within the floral categories, and mainly the natural extract and some of the molecules that are linked to this natural extract. All right. Okay, so let's talk about the rose subcategory, subfamily. Okay. So let's start with the rose, right? Rose Absolute or Rose Essential Oil. So here I've got the Rose Absolute from Morocco. You can see here very, very dark color. So beautiful, beautiful extract. In order to make it more usable, you can also dilute it into DPG or alcohol. So Rose Absolute is one of the most expensive molecule that you find, molecule is one of the most expensive natural extract that you find in the perfume organ. So it's, you can see it's very, very kind of dark orangey color. Okay, so Rose Absolute really have the specificity. It smells obviously very rosy, very petally, very powdery, but also for me, what makes Rose Absolute so amazingly beautiful is the smell of honey. It smells quite like nectar honey, like an expensive honey, not your typical honey from your supermarket. It's just beautiful, beautiful. So Rose Absolute, not to use in very high quantity for two reasons, because it's limited. For regulatory reason, but also very, very expensive. So what you can do is to recreate the smell of rose by using an accord of rose. And I'm going to talk to you about today of just one of the molecules that you can find into this kind of rose subfamily is PEA. So phenyl ethyl alcohol. Okay, alcohol phenylethylic in French. So this you can find, you can smell these ingredients, and it's clearly kind of rose powdery, rose petal. And what is very specific of the PEA is that it smells of this honey smell that I was just talking about. So it has really this kind of it's kind of kind of wax, beeswax kind of smell, honey. So it's a molecule that naturally occur in rose extract, PEA, and obviously one of the must ingredients that you need to have if we want to create the smell of rose in fragrance without using the natural stuff. I want to talk to you about the geranium oil. Geranium essential oil is also within this kind of rosy family. Geranium has really, for me, I like to describe geranium as a masculine rose. It is very rosy because it will have in common some molecules that you also find in rose extract, so such as geranio, citronellol, and geranium oil, essential oil extracted from the leaf, not the flower, which is not scented, and you really have this kind of leafy green herby notes that you do not find in rose extract, rose absolute or rose essential oil. That tends to be much more kind of floral petally. So geranium for me has got more of an aromatic greeny rose tone to it, a bit spicy and a bit woody as well. The next subfamily that I'm going to talk about is the white flowers. So white flowers, what are they? Think of white flowers as anything that has this kind of heavy, heady deeper tone, exotic note. They tend to have all in common a spicy facet, an animalic facet. They also tend to have something a bit fruity. So I'm going to talk about this kind of like fruity note that you can find in white flowers. So let's start with the white flower. White flowers, I want to talk about Jasmine Sambac Absolute. So Jasmine Sambac Absolute from India. You can see this deep color that Absolute have us, kind of like orangey, deep amber color, you can see. So Jasmine Sambac, beautiful notes. I love Jasmine Sambac. I use it into the Jasmine Osmanthus, the Layers collection. So Jasmine Sambac has got this kind of specific notes. Smells quite banana, fruity, pear. It also has, of course, all of the white flower facet that I was just talking about. So the spicy note is heady, it's heavy, it's animalic. White flower tends to have a molecules in common that is called Indo, that smells quite animalic and a little bit dirty as well. So that's Jasmine Absolute, Jasmine Sambac Absolute, this one from India. I want to talk to you next about the Ylang Ylang essential oil. Okay, so Ylang Ylang essential oil, different flowers. Ylang is a flower that is yellow. It looks like a spider, if you will, like kind of like it has like lots of arms, like a yellow, and it's kind of like dangling like this. So Google it if you've never come across an ylang flowers. Ylang is often called the jasmine of the poor. So why? Is because it has really much of a jasmine note to it, but ylang does not have the kind of majesty of jasmine. So for me, ylang ylang is much more exotic. It has this typical kind of sun cream, monoid tone to it. Put ylang with coconut and you're right at the beach. So it's a great little kind of floral note, but it also has this kind of creamy, soapy tone to it. So ylang ylang, if you compare it to jasmine, you will see the commonality between the two, which is this kind of jasmine-y, the spicy, the headiness, the white flowers, and animalic note to it. But ylang ylang for me is a little bit more rubbery, it's a little bit greener, yeah, it's less. It's just less majestic. It's less kind of beautiful. But it's still, nevertheless, ylang ylang is still a great flowers to kind of look into if you want to study the white flower category. Tuberose, guys. Tuberose Absolute, super expensive. Here we're using an accord that is very. There's a great little accord of tuberose. That kind of recreates the smell of tuberose. So for those who do not know about this, so accords are blends of a few ingredients that when put together smell like the ingredients that you're trying to recreate. Okay, so the accord of tuberose will not use tuberose Absolute, but we'll use different ingredients together that when put together smell like tuberose. I know it's a bit mind-blowing, but this is perfumery, guys. So tuberose, this is a great little accord, really, really smell like, well, not like the tuberose Absolute, but it has this kind of, obviously very prominent tuberosy smell. Still same thing. White flower meaning heavy, heady, spicy, animalic. For me, tuberose has got more of an aromatic, herby, and green notes. It almost smells like a bush, and it also smells very fruity. Okay, so jasmine was kind of more fruity, banana. Tuberose has got also this kind of fruity note, but I would say more a little bit towards the apricot-y smell. All right, one of my favorite is the osmanthus oil. I love this ingredient. So it's beautiful. Not everybody likes osmanthus, and I'll tell you why. Osmanthus smells quite animalic. And osmanthus, the reason why I love it so much, it smells apricotty. So it smells between honey, apricot, and the smell of horse fur. Like when you kind of like go into a horse stable. It smells also kind of like walnutty as well. It smells like when you go into a, when they make fermented wine, I think. So this kind of like walnuts, kind of, barrel, but of course with this apricot honey smell. So osmanthus oil, for those who've never seen an osmanthus flower, it has the color orange and it comes from China, and Chinese people can drink it in tea as well. So osmanthus, I use it into the jasmine osmanthus. So I use jasmine sambac and osmanthus. Osmanthus essential oil is super expensive. It's beautiful. You only need a tiny touch to create a big impact into a formula. But be very wary about this animalic, almost mushroomy tone to it that some people can be very averted to. So it can be your friend and your enemy as well, but like all of the flowers that we've talked about. The next one that I want to talk to you about is in the family. So we're changing family, or it's an interesting one, this one. We're changing subfamily, but we are very close and linked to the white flower, and it's the category of orange flowers. So here today I want to talk about the neroli oil. So neroli oil, guys, very yellow, you can see here. So neroli essential oil, same flowers from which you extract the orange flowers, absolute, fleur d'oranger absolue, neroli essential oil. Absolute is extracted through solvent extraction. Essential oil is extracted through distillation. If you want, check out our other videos about the natural extract and how they extract it and the different type of natural extract. Okay, so neroli essential oil. Some perfumer can classify neroli essential oil within the citrus category. This is also correct. Why? Is because neroli essential oil is extremely fresh. Okay, so it really has this kind of fresh, aromatic. I would say more lavender than citrus. It's extremely expensive, neroli essential oil. Orange Blossom Absolute, more so expensive. Orange Blossom Absolute is quite different to neroli essential oil. Orange Blossom Absolute will have the sweetness, the cakiness, the kind of more, absolute facet that you find in those type of extract. So it tends to be a little bit sweeter, a little bit more ambery, let's say. So neroli essential oil, traditionally used a lot in like eau de cologne, citrusy note, floral note, of course. It's beautiful. It's very green. Very different to the white flowers that we've talked about. It doesn't have the heaviness and the headiness. It's not spicy like jasmine or like an ylang. It doesn't have this kind of, whoa, I come into a room and I kind of feel the room. This is kind of, it has this kind of lighter, brighter feel to it. Okay, so neroli essential oil, if you don't like the heaviness, the deep heaviness of the other white flower, look into this kind of orange blossom family. That can be great. Very quickly, I'm going to touch on the floral powdery note. So floral powdery note, two notes, Iris Absolute and Mimosa, that I want to talk to you just now. So Mimosa Absolute, another very expensive one. Okay, so Mimosa Absolute really does smell like powder. Okay, so when I talk about powder, think of makeup powder, think of talcum powder, think of rice powder, anything that will be sweet and soft. Okay, so Mimosa Absolute, Google the flowers, have a look at what they look like. It's not a flower that you find everywhere in the world. It's a flower that tends to grow in the Mediterranean countries, so south of France, obviously being one of the key place to grow mimosa. So mimosa is harvested in like February, and so it's beautiful. It smells of rice powder. It's sweet. It's soft. It has this kind of deep honey smell again, and still has this kind of waxy note to it. Huh? Also a bit green, of course. Huh? So still this kind of green vegetal note to it. Very quickly, I want to touch onto the Narcissus. So Narcisse Absolute, this one is from France, okay? So I should have put it within the white flower category. You can see the color of that beautiful, beautiful smell. So this is an absolute, absolute. Remember, for those who have watched the other video, tends to be more colored, tend to have this kind of more sticky consistency. Actually, this one I want to show you on a scent strip. So Narcissus, beautiful. Smells a bit like hard to compare to anything else here. It has a little bit of this kind of osmanthus, so kind of apricotty, sweet honey, heavy, but it smells more like hay a little bit. Kind of dry herbs, dry grass, has this kind of sweetness. And for me, it has this kind of very sweet, apricots, dry apricots. It's amazing. These natural extract, very, very expensive. You will break the bank if you put too much of it. But all of these flowers, you really don't need much in a perfume formula to create a great impact. So never think that a fragrance that is called rose is made out of 100% of rose essential or rose absolute. No, absolutely not. First, because you will pay your fragrance £100,000 your bottle. So most rose-based fragrance will use accords, for instance, and will use this kind of tiny touch of this natural extract. And this natural extract will be almost like this kind of a center stage of the composition. But it doesn't necessarily mean that your fragrance will have 100% of rose, if that makes sense, or 100% of jasmine. It's the same thing for all of these flowers. Okay. I want to talk to you because we've mainly focused onto the natural extract today. I want to talk to you about a few molecules that we can call versatile floral. So the molecule that you can put in fragrances to create an impression of flowers, but without necessarily creating a specific flowers, if that makes sense. So linalool is a must note molecules to have in your library if you want to play with floral notes. So linalool is a natural molecule that occurs naturally in a lot of floral natural extract. So linalool, you'll find that it smells quite rosy, woody, spicy. It smells like a rosewood specifically. And linalool, I'd say, is quite versatile. It also smells a bit like coriander seed as well, and it has this kind of citrusy, citronella kind of smell. So it's quite spicy. I don't necessarily find linalool very easy to use, even though perfumers use it a lot. So really do study linalool. It's a great molecule. Can be a little bit synthetic, of course, so needs to evolve in a composition. One of my favorite ingredients is hedione. So hedione is actually one of the favorite ingredients of a lot of perfumer. It's a great versatile floral notes. So Hedione, if you discover Hedione for the first time, you will not be impressed. Hedione smells so light that it's actually quite difficult to smell. Hedione will remind you of the smell of blossom, the smell of lemongrass or verbena. It's a bit citrusy, but it really has this kind of light, fresh, florally, blossomy note. So Hedione is used to create tea notes, blossom, floral note, fresh note. You can put so much of it. Hedione naturally occurs in jasmine extract. And actually, if you smell Hedione, you may find this kind of jasmine tea note in there. Okay, so Hedione and benzoyl acetate, and then you create the start of a jasmine smell. Okay, so these are this kind of like two keynotes. Hydroxycitronellal. This one is if you want to create notes that are more kind of a lily of the valley, fresh, petally. Let's call them the spring notes. Okay, so lily of the valley is a very good kind of representation of this type of notes. Okay, so hydroxycitronellal, and if you smell hydroxy, you will have the typical kind of, fresh green flowers, floral notes, petally. It's a bit undescriptive as a smell, or let's say it's quite kind of, neutral, kind of springy flower type of notes. Okay, so we could continue for hours and hours talking about the smell of violets, which we haven't talked about, like ionone, for instance. We could talk about damascones, which are molecules that you find in like rose, a rosy note. We could talk about millions of things, but that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video was really kind of like show you the different type of floral notes, as in the kind of subfamilies and categories. So remember, we have the rose, the white flower, powdery notes, and then the kind of like molecules, the more kind of versatile molecules. All right. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you find it enjoyable. I hope you've learned a lot of things about our beautiful natural extract. Remember, perfumery is not only about natural extract. Molecules are very, very important. And a molecule does not mean bad synthetic. Molecules are most of the time present in those natural extracts. We've talked a little bit about it between, so rose has got PEA, jasmine has got the beautiful hedione, has got the acetylbenzoyl, etc., etc. All right, well, thank you for joining Noses, and I'll see you in the next video.